back into the channel. Today we are continuing our NFL divisional positional tier list series. Two divisions left to go, the AFC South today and the AFC West a little bit later this week. Every other division already up on the channel, so be sure to check out those videos if you have not already. Like I mentioned, the AFC South today, we are starting with, of course, quarterback, and give me CJ Stroud as the best quarterback in this division. I think even if you're somebody who's kind of a little out on CJ Stroud at this point, or buying into the sophomore slump, which I am not, you would still have him as the best quarterback in this division. 2 years ago, at the time, had the greatest rookie quarterback season that we had ever seen, has won the division back-to-back years, has won playoff games in back-to-back years. So CJ Stroud to me is the clear number one. We could start to have a bit of a conversation. I'm still going to take Trevor Lawrence as the second best quarterback in this division. Trevor Lawrence, yeah, I still believe into some of the hype of, why he was the number one overall pick. He's got great size, a real cannon of an arm, decent mobility for his size. I'm excited to see with Liam Cohen, with Brian Thomas Jr., with Travis Hunter, what kind of a season we can get from Trevor Lawrence. Then the next QB I'm going to take, had to scroll down a little to get him, but that is Cam Ward. Cam Ward is the number one overall pick from this past draft. And while I think that he has some things that he needs to work on at the NFL level, there's no denying some of the clear-cut things that you see in Cam Ward. I think he plays the game at 0.75 speed. Similar to Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels, this guy's got a real sense of calmness in the pocket. Got a nice arm on him, and of course has that mobility. Got to work on the decision making. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some bad turnovers this year, but it'll be better for you Titans fans than Will Levis. And then, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, whoever you want to say is the Colts' best quarterback, I have them in last tier. For Anthony Richardson, the decision making, will that ever improve? I'm just not sure. All the physical talents are there of what you would want in a quarterback, but the decision making is not there. And then Daniel Jones, he's got his limitations, solid mobility wise, but to me, this is a pretty clear-cut quarterback rankings for the AFC South. Up next, we get to the running back rooms, and give me the Indianapolis Colts, man. Jonathan Taylor is just absolutely that guy. Jonathan Taylor, when healthy, I think is in top 5 running back in the league conversations, very explosive. Got great speed to him, some solid power, fine in the pass catching game. Not going to blow you away numbers wise, but especially in this Steichen offense with mobile quarterbacks, but can catch the ball if need be. We saw what he did to end the year last year. That game versus the Titans that he had was absolutely outstanding. JT, the best running back in this division by a decent chunk, and good enough to just elevate the entire Colts running back room. Then I'm going to take the Houston Texans, man. Joe Mixon came in last year and was uber productive when he was playing, despite being behind a bad offensive line, dealt with a little bit of injuries, but really could have pushed for a, all pro level season potentially. It would have been tough with Saquon and Derrick Henry, but the guy was on a really, really sweet pace. They bring in Woody Marks. They still have Damian Pierce in that backfield. So some solid, Dar Agumbawale, a nice little piece there for Texans fans, but Joe Mixon really elevates this group. And then I'm going to put the Tennessee Titans, man, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, the real RB duo. They're better than the last place RB duo of ETN and Bigsby and maybe Tootin at this point in time, but give me Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. I think Tajay Spears is going to overtake being the best running back in this backfield this year, but still a really solid 1A, 1B combination. Tony Pollard underrated because of him not being able to be a full 3-down back in Dallas, I think, last year. Then he showed in a good sample size where you have some controlled rushes and maybe even a little bit better of a performing offensive line, he could perform at a sweet rate. Travis Etienne kind of fell off a cliff last year, but so did the Jags' entire offense. So similar to Trevor Lawrence, is that an Etienne issue, or is that just an offense as a whole issue? Up next, we get to the wide receivers, and as a room, I'm going to take the Houston Texans. I think Nico Collins is the best wide receiver in this division. I think he's a top 5 guy, elite size, elite hands, elite speed. When you can get him healthy for a full season, you get Pro Bowl, potentially all-pro production out of this guy. CJ Stroud's favorite target for a reason. The contract extension that they got him to, now that I'm seeing some of the other money coming in for wide receivers, just feels like an absolute steal. I love the 2 Iowa State picks in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. absolute beastly picks there. Really, really solid stuff. You got some depth pieces as well in a John Mechie, a Christian Kirk, a Xavier Hutchinson, 5 to 6 deep of guys that if they're playing for your NFL team, it won't kill you. And then I'm going to take the Jags, who I feel are a little bit more top heavy, right? Brian Thomas Jr., one of the better wide receivers in all of football. He's just outside of my top 10 at this point in time, but really explosive, could really get you over the top. Travis Hunter, we'll see what he is. He was my second highest graded wide receiver in this draft class. We'll see how much production he gets, how much time he plays. They brought in a De'Ami Brown, so this isn't a sleeper of a wide receiver room. Because Houston has, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the league and more depth, I went with them, but it's really, really close between these two, if you ask me. And then we get to an area where I'm going to take the Colts, man, because I do think the Colts wide receiver room is pretty deep overall. Pittman, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, like 3 really solid NFL level guys. Adonai Mitchell, the production wasn't there in his rookie season, but Anthony Richardson missed this guy wide open multiple times. Josh Downs really came into his own. And, Michael Pittman, we've seen what he could be with comparable quarterback play. And then the Titans, man, Calvin Ridley going into another season where I do think he'll be a 1,000-yard guy. But outside of him, you got an older Tyler Lockett, a Xavier Restrepo, and just a bunch of other guys, man, that we'll see where it really works out for them in Tennessee. But the top of this division in Houston and Jacksonville has some really, really sweet wide receiver rooms, and I think the Colts are more than serviceable. And we move into tight end, where this is where I think the Colts being more than serviceable shows, because I'm going to put them as the best tight end room in this division. And that is really on the strength and on the back of Tyler Warren, man. I think Tyler Warren's going to come into the NFL and absolutely dominate. If Shane Steichen can get him going in this offense, and if they can get a, just competent quarterback play, I do think Tyler Warren has all the makings of a top 10 tight end in this sport. And in this division, I think that's more than enough to get you to be the number one, team in terms of tight end positional tier rankings. The number 2 squad, I've been going back and forth. I'm going to roll Houston because I do think that they have 3 serviceable tight ends in Dalton Schultz, in Cade Stover, and in Brevin Jordan. Dalton Schultz really has lost it in terms of speed, and I do think Brevin Jordan and Cade Stover are kind of breathing down his neck starting this year, but still some really secure hands. And Houston, again, decent in the weapons category. Then I'm going to go with Tennessee. I like Chigonkwonkwo, man. I think Chig is one of the more underrated tight ends in the sport, and maybe I'm underrating him here by putting him below this Texans tight end room. We'll see. I think he could, certainly be one of, if not Cam Ward's favorite target this year. And then I'll go with the Jaguars room, and they move on from Evan Ingram. It's going to be Brenton Strange and some guys. I don't have a lot of faith in it. It feels like they're putting a lot of their eggs in the wide receiver production basket. People that are in the know have told me like Brenton Strange could be that guy. When I see it, I'll believe it, and it can reflect in the rankings then. But for right now, it's just not going to. Offensive lines, man, give me the Colts here, number 1. The Indianapolis Colts, I do think, have the best offensive line in this division, even with the losses of Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. I still think it's a, fringe top 10 offensive line in all in football. And these other guys are all below the 16 mark for sure. And then 2 of these teams, I think, are below the 25 mark. So the Colts really work their way in here. I like what Tennessee's building. J.C. Latham, I'm excited to see how that pans out. They got some other new names in there as well. And the protection for Cam Ward should be solid in year 1. Not perfect, but solid. Middle of the pack offensive line. I'm actually going to take the Texans over the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line. And I know people are saying, Dylan, like the Texans offensive line is going to be terrible. I actually think they have like 7 to 8 playable pieces. We'll see how it all shapes out. I like the new coaching staff that's come in. I think that the shift in culture will be evident, and this offensive line will play harder than the team last year. Texans fans will know what I'm talking about. If you're just an NFL fan, you might not understand what I'm getting at, but trust. And Jacksonville, this could be the downfall of the team. Truthfully, it really, really could. We get to defenses now, and it should no surprise the Houston Texans are going to be my number 1 defense here. I think that they have a top 3 defense in the entire sport. When it comes to the front line, Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, just one of the more elite edge rusher combos in all of football. I like the linebackers with Al-Shaair, Oto'o, Christian Harris, and that secondary, man. I think it's slept on. I think it might be the best in football with Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Petrie, Caden Bullock, and CJ Gardner Johnson now in the mix. Like, this is an absolute squad. And then I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans defense next. I think that they're pretty slept on. You know, Tavondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons. I look to see L'Jarius Sneed play a little bit better this year. They were really solid last year, though, in terms of yards allowed. I think the only team better than them was the Philadelphia Eagles. So, you know, don't sleep on the Titans defense. The Colts, they made some real improvements to that secondary too, bringing in Cam Bynum, and you know, you still have Kenny Moore out there, DeForest Buckner on that front line, Zaire Franklin. Like, this is still a real competent defense, and Luan Arumo getting in there now with some more veteran pieces rather than what he had in Cincinnati, I think could be interesting. And the Jaguars, man, they find themselves in last year. This O-line and defense, we'll talk about it at the end a little bit more when we're just kind of talking about the division, but this is really hurting the Jags, man. You know, we'll see if some of the pieces they brought in, like a Jordan Lewis, and I believe they also brought in an Eric Armstead, like, can improve this team. But it's just, it was one of the worst defenses last year, and I don't think there was enough moves to make it better, which is why I'm kind of like, is Travis Hunter going to have to play more defense than offense? I don't know. We'll see how that all shakes out. And then we got the head coach rankings, man. Give me D'Amico Ryans as the best head coach in this division. Again, since he's gotten there, they've won the division 2 years in a row, similar to CJ Stroud. And man, the culture that he brings to the team, the defense is always top notch. And you could really tell this offseason that he kind of grabbed the reins as to what the culture of this team was going to be and who he wanted in that building. And D'Amico is going to be around for a real long time. I think Shane Steichen's one of the more underrated head coaches in football. I think it's possible he loses his job this year kind of unfairly just due to this quarterback situation up here. But, you know, Steichen 2 years ago almost brought the Colts to the playoffs with the Joe Flacco coming in and that group. And I think they have a bigger Anthony Richardson issue, and I hope Steichen gets another shot with another quarterback, but we'll see how it pans out. And then I'm going to take Liam Cohen over Callahan. And, you know, obviously, you know, Callahan got a #1 overall pick, so it wasn't like he had a great year. It's a little bit of just projecting with both of these coaches, to be honest, but I believe just a little bit more in the offensive philosophy of Liam Cohen. But if you're a Titans fan and you're like, hey, man, like, this should be switched, I got no problem with it. I understand where you're coming from. But this is just my personal projection. So it is what it is. It's definitely more opinion based. When we take a look at this as a whole, I mean, obviously the Houston Texans, like, there's a reason that they've been winning this division the past 2 years. They're the cream of the crop. The Colts, sneaky, winning 3 of the 7 categories. Like, they've got the pieces, man. If the Colts get a quarterback, I think we should really watch out for this team as a playoff team. I don't see it this year, but if they were to land high in this draft and could bring in a Arch Manning, a Nussmeier, a Lenore Sellers, like, the Colts could be, you know, a team that potentially goes from worst to first. If they finish worst in the division this year, they could finish first in it next year, and I'm not even over exaggerating. Jacksonville, they got a lot of holes to figure out. We'll see if they could change the culture, but, you know, I've seen some people projecting them to win the division this year. Feels a little silly. And then Tennessee, man, a lot of it's just going to be on the basis of what Cam Ward is and can they bring in the weapons to support him, and what Callahan is. Like, it's a lot of a learning year for the Tennessee Titans, and I think the next 2 years will really be learning seasons. But as always, guys, these are just my thoughts. Be sure to let me know yours in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that button. I'll catch you next time. Peace.